So, and thanks for joining me today. We're going to talk about those medications, insulin resistance, and what really works and why people are struggling after they come off of them, all of the stuff. So, this information, by the way, comes a lot of the information from this and the opinions on those medications that I have come from my metabolic scientist favorite, Dr. Bickman. And I will try to do a video later today pointing to one of the videos where he talks about this at length and why it's causing problems. But let's dive in and see what's happening, you guys, and hopefully help people understand what's going on when you look for quick fixes instead of addressing the root problem, and some of the damage that can come along with it, and why people are still struggling even after they've come off of those medications. And we're going to talk about it in relation to age, because as we age, ladies and men, it is very different for us as we age, what's happening in our body with our metabolism, our muscle density, our ability to move food through the system, our bone density, all of it, and all of it ties in. So hang on just a second. But welcome in. I'm in Maryland in the USA. I grew up in Idaho. Where are you guys all from? I'm a little late because I was on the phone this morning. Good morning, Dr. Ahmed. I'm a little late because I was talking with a client this morning and helping her. That's what I do. And so we'll share some of the stuff that's going on there too. But let's dive in. I don't know, Dr. Ahmed. Anyway, so Dr. Ahmed is the cardiologist that I talk about all the time. Dr. Ahmed, you should be super famous by now with all of us talking about you. He's amazing. He does the same system that I do, and for good reason. One of his testimonies is on my page. I really need to link up with you and get one specifically for my page, and we'll talk about all of this stuff, because I had a blood pressure. This is off this topic, but kind of. I had blood pressure that would run as high as 180 over 150 every single day. And the best we could get it to was 150 over 110 in the doctor's office. And she had me on dual therapy and cycling through medications one at a time to try and figure out what was going to help me. Those were just 2 of the 13 medications I was on at the time. Now, no medications, and my blood pressure is 112 over 74 every single morning. So this is why Dr. Ahmed recommends the system to most of his patients, if not all of them, and why he himself uses it. So you guys, it's great stuff. Let's dive into this whole metabolic issue and insulin resistance. We need to understand insulin, and we need to understand a few things about our metabolism so that we can understand why this stuff isn't really working in the long term. So insulin is a hormone, and it's interesting, and we'll dive into calories versus hormones later. We're going to dive into all of that stuff later on in this little talk this morning. But insulin's job is really to carry, I have super greens under my fingers still. Oh my gosh. Insulin's job is to carry energy to the cells of the body. It does a number of things, but we're going to talk about that today. Okay, so your bloodstream can only hold about 1 teaspoon of sugar in it, or glucose, before it starts to become damaging to the body. When Dr. Ahmed, I see your request, but it's not letting me click on it. What is that? Let's take the effects off and maybe it will let me do it. So let's see. There it goes. I had to turn that off. So guys, over here on Facebook, YouTube, Dr. Ahmed's joining me on on TikTok, and we're going to talk for a little bit this morning, and then we're going to get back to it. Good morning. You look like you're on your way to work too. You're already late today.
I'm usually at work at 7 o'clock.
Oh my gosh.
Well, this is what we do.
Right? You're taking care of people. So, Dr. Ahmed, I just shared how my blood pressure was so high, how I got off of all of my medications, and now my blood pressure is normal. like 112/74 for a woman who's about to turn 60. What's your opinion on that blood pressure?
Well, the blood pressure is great. You need to have a blood pressure of 115/70. That's a normal blood pressure. Any blood pressure more than that increases the risk of a heart attack and a stroke twice as much if the number goes up by 10 points.
So this marker that I use all the time of 130/80, and that's what we're talking about, is that's a sign that you're insulin resistant. But really, the damage starts before that. Then what you're saying is so.
Correct. Your blood pressure goal should be. This is what I tell my patient. Hey, Mr. Smith or Mrs. Smith, your blood pressure. You are taking three different blood pressure medications, or two different blood pressure medications. My goal for you is to be on zero medication.
Perfect. So I've worked for a lot of doctors, and some of them are just like throw out the pills and welcome in the big pharma reps. And I have two family members that were big pharma reps. And then some doctors were like, I don't want them in my door. We want to do everything we can to keep them off of medications where possible.
No, listen, we need pharma reps and we need pharma because, there are medications just like heart disease. If somebody has a heart disease, needs to be on an aspirin, needs to be on a Plavix, they need to be on certain medication which you cannot avoid. There are benefits, but again, the goal should not be the medication for medication. The goal should be to get rid of the medication. And I ask the general public up here, whoever is there with you, is that what are the 5 most common things that you can avoid to get your blood pressure in good control? And my answer always is salt, 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 and salt. And number 6 is exercise. Exercise, people ask me, I have arthritis, I cannot do this. I said, if you can walk 5 minutes, it's better than not walking. If you can walk 6 minutes, it's better than walking 5 minutes. So exercise is just a healthy habit. It also helps you to improve. If today you can walk 5 minutes, tomorrow you can walk 6. Day after tomorrow you can walk 10 minutes. And whatever you can do just to get moving, and that will help to control your hormones, and that will help also make you feel better, and that will control your blood pressure better. And it will also make you a little bit more insulin sensitive rather than insulin resistant.
Exactly. So yeah, I was actually listening to Dr. Bickman and an exercise physiologist talk about this morning, and it's amazing to me that some knowledge out there, and I fell into this too. I'm going to admit where I fail, but they talked about it. A woman at my age that I shouldn't be doing heavy lifting. I shouldn't be doing as much exercise because it's going to raise my cortisol levels and all of that. Well, now what I realize is there may be some truth to that, but the fact is that it's harder after age 50 to keep muscle mass on, much less replace muscle mass that we've lost. So the minute we stop moving and we start losing as we're aging, it becomes almost impossible to replace what we've lost. And so that movement's super important. And go ahead.
So this is something that people have to understand, that the resistance exercise and cardio, both of them are equally important. American College of Cardiology has put resistance exercise in their protocol for being heart healthy, because if you build muscle, again, you become more insulin sensitive. You also metabolize cholesterol much more better, so that you don't hold the cholesterol in your body. So resistance and cardio combination, I'm more of a resistance guy than a cardio. I play squash, I play pickleball, I play tennis. But again, besides that, if I at least twice a week, I do resistance exercises for 45 minutes to an hour, which is the total body resistance, because of the fact that the largest group of muscles that you have in your body are your legs. So you need to keep on moving, and you need to keep on doing some resistance training, and that will help you to be healthy.
So the interesting thing I heard, and I cannot remember the exercise physiologist guy's name, but Dr. Bickman and he were talking, and what Dr. Bickman was saying is, like, a lot of us think that resistance training to failure means we got to put on a ton of weight on the machine. We got to do this really heavy movement of weight. And what he was saying this morning is that that's not necessary, whether you're doing lightweight or whether you're doing heavyweight, especially as we age, it's more important to move that muscle till failure in that set to get that muscle spurned to grow. So it doesn't have to be heavy lifting. If you want to do a lighter weight and do 20, 25 reps, that he says that works fine too. If you want to do a heavier weight and do 8 reps and you can tolerate that, that works fine too. But it is about moving the body and stressing the body a little bit, because we don't get growth if we don't have a little stress in it, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I guess what I'm getting to is as I was thinking as you were talking, that lighter weight, longer movement, if you're doing that, you're actually getting a little of cardiometabolic work in that when you're moving that lighter weight for longer periods for more reps. So now you've combined the two.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you can use any combination. There is no A formula. For me, I started weight training only about 10 years ago. Before that, I was all cardio and all sports activity, no nothing. Now, I mean, I do Peloton just in case if I cannot work out. Whatever you can do, whatever can make you, but resistance, you have to have it. I started with lower weights, and now ever since I'm on the program, that's one of the beauty of this. I always carry a bigger bottle because I drink so much. So the Unimate, when I'm doing a fasting state, Unimate, I am pushing my limit. I am doing, things which it doesn't look like that I can bench press 150, but I do now. And I've been doing it for the last 6 months. Again, I have a chronic fatigue and a chronic stress in my life because of the work and sleeping habits and all that stuff. But again, you do whatever the best you can do. The best you can do for yourself is you have to understand. I cannot teach you. You cannot teach me. I just have to learn from whatever works. The basics never change. The basics is that you go to the gym or you have a home gym. Don't hang your clothes and a towel on the gym equipment in the basement. Try to work it out.
Yeah. So, Dr. Ahmed, for everybody
who's a little bit and you discipline. You get up whenever you have time. If you can get up, I work out in the morning. You cannot pay me to go to the gym in the afternoon or in the evening because I work out only in the morning.
Why do you work out only
and I
in the
work
morning?
out in the morning at 5:30 before I get my day started.
That's why. Are you done at the gym and heading to work? Is that what's going on this morning?
No, what I'm saying is that I work out always 5:30 in the morning before I get to work.
Okay. So Dr. Ahmed is a cardiologist. Go ahead.
The reason why I do that because I want to take care of my health first before I take care of you or anybody else.
And I think that's important. I try to tell people that all the time, you guys. We tend to put our health last, and feeling like, I don't know, especially in us older people, there's this martyristic kind of ideology that we have, that we have to suffer and to do good for other people, and that we're not good people if we're not suffering to make others better, and that's wrong. So Dr. Ahmed is a cardiologist, and he actually is on the system, started it. It did such good things for him. He's now recommending it to his patients too. So he's got the live pause for a second, and I'm going to continue talking to you. Does anybody have any questions about what we've talked about so far?
Misha, I'm going to have to leave. Again, whenever I get 5 minutes, I would like to, get on. I had 5 minutes before my case, and they are ready for me, so I'm going to leave. And if you have any other questions, then thank you for the last video. I have another thing that I'm going to probably do a little duet on your video about the chlorogenic acid. You got that all of that from the research from the PubMed, and I have that paper. Actually, I refer this to a lot of people about the fact that chlorogenic acid is number one antioxidant. I want to talk about something about what is antioxidant. A lot of people talk about antioxidant, but they don't exactly know what is oxidation. What does oxidation do to human body? But at a later time.
Okay, I'd love to have that conversation because I want to educate everybody as to why I drink this tea this morning and why you have it in that bigger bottle and why I never have a morning without it and why it's changed my life so much. So I would love to have that information.
Ask your viewers one question. When they get up in the morning, they go for coffee or they go for water? If they go for coffee, they have a brain fog. Have a good day.
All right. Have a good day, Dr. Ahmed. Thank you for joining me.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so that was Dr. Ahmed, and he's such a great guy. We're going to dive back in. Hey, Farah, it's been a while since I've seen you. We're going to dive back in and start talking about what I was originally talking about before Dr. Ahmed so graciously took time out of his extremely busy day to share with us. And that is about the damaging effects of some of the medications that you're being given and why they're flawed in what's working with weight loss and managing your insulin resistance. I did not expect to find Dr. Ahmed this morning, but what a pleasure that was. So, you guys, these medications called GLP-1s, whatever name they go by, there are actually different forms of them, but in the whole, they all are working pretty much similar. So I was listening to Dr. Bickman talk about them. Now, why do I listen to Dr. Bickman talk about them instead of some of these other people? Dr. Bickman is a metabolic scientist. He wrote this book that I recommend to everyone all the time called Why We Get Sick. Dr. Bickman works at BYU, so he has a lot of leeway, I was learning this morning, in doing the science that he feels needs to be done. He's not directed by anybody that says, oh, you can't talk about this, you can't do that. So he's very happy where he's at. That's why he's at BYU. But he also was one of the first doctors to really start studying these GLP-1 medications, or scientists to start studying them. So he's been looking at these GLP-1 medications. So what am I talking about? Ozempic, Mounjaro, tirzepatide, all of those. He's been looking at them since the beginning. So he has a really in-depth molecular view of these medications, and his opinions have become pretty much my opinions. I was never a big proponent of medications in the first place, unless, like Dr. Ahmed just said, and I've always said this, there are times when medications are necessary, when medications are life-saving, when we need them. But most of the time, we just do not need as many as we're being given, because it's the easy way out. It's the quick way out to get numbers down, to get things in line, but it's not really addressing the root cause. So where we were talking just a little bit ago was about insulin, and I want to cover this really quickly for everybody who doesn't understand insulin or why it's important or how this all ties in, because it is important. Number one, insulin resistance, and then I'm going to work backwards. Insulin resistance, according to Bickman and Yao and Lee and Pardeep and Fung, is at the root of almost every disease and disorder that we have today. And obesity is one of them, okay? So it's not the one that I focus on the most, but recently I have been for a few reasons, because I'm diving back into figuring out the last pieces of my own weight loss journey and trying to get the last of my weight off, and so that I can feel even more healthy than I do now. But I want to do it from a more scientific, realistic, sustainable approach. I don't want to do it from just, oh, let me go do this or this and have some weight loss, but that's going to rebound or have caused me other damage. So let's look at insulin resistance and why it's so linked in. When we eat, our food converts into energy. That energy is often called glucose. We can only have about 1 teaspoon of that in our bloodstream at any given time, or starts to cause damage. So now when we've eaten and we have food that's converting into glucose too quickly, look, our food is modified, it's manufactured, we're high in carbs, high in starches, and all that causes this to start, right? So now the body says, oh, we got to get rid of this out of the bloodstream. It cues your pancreas to produce this hormone called insulin. And remember, hormones are proteins, so we're going to talk about that in a little bit too. Insulin's job then is to come out and act like a transport system. So it's scooping up this glucose and it's driving around inside your blood cells, inside your blood veins, and taking out all of this to the cells of your body so that they have the energy they need to do the functions they're supposed to do, because every cell has insulin receptors, because every cell needs energy. So insulin's a really good thing, and I don't want to make it sound like it's not. But the problem is that in today's food environment, in the way we eat and how often we eat, we're constantly requiring the pancreas to produce insulin to deal with these blood sugars. Now, when we have this constant influx of insulin, it starts to be called hyperinsulinemia. You can bear that for a little bit of time without a lot of damage, but once you've started doing that all the time, which is pretty much most of us, it becomes what's called insulin resistance, because now, as insulin is driving this energy around and it's knocking on the doors of the cells, or even trying to put a key in to unlock the cell to allow the energy in, the cells are either saying nope, or it feels like that key is just worn out and won't work anymore. Now the cells aren't opening up, they're not getting the energy, and you have excess insulin and excess sugar in your bloodstream. So cells aren't taking in energy. You're starting to notice all of these things up here going wrong with you, including your blood pressure going up, which is what Dr. Ahmed and I just started talking about, and your fat. Dr. Bickman was just talking about they're doing some studies on fat right now, and he has some fat cells in petri dishes in his lab across from his office, and they have some that they're adding insulin to and some that they're adding a lot of nutrients to, but with the absence of excess insulin. So the fat cells that have all the nutrients are living, but they're not growing. The fat cells that have excess insulin are growing rapidly. So we need to understand that fat cells need some insulin to grow. So that's number one. So if you're having excess weight problems, you probably have an insulin problem as well. There's a couple other things I don't feel like getting into right now. I can later if we need to, but let's understand this. Excess insulin, which leads to insulin resistance, is what's causing those fat cells to grow. So if you're a type 2 diabetic and you're taking insulin and you're having a problem losing weight, that's why. That insulin that you're injecting is causing you to retain fat. Because when all the rest of the cells of the body start to become resistant, the fat cells start taking it up. So we want to think about if a truck is going around trying to make deliveries and it can't make the deliveries, what's left in the truck is going to go to a storage unit. And in our body, that's our fat cells. So now we're starting to gain weight. Now, when the fat cells get to a certain point where they feel like they can't take anymore, then they start to become resistant to insulin as well. And now they have components spilling back out into the bloodstream. Sugars are back out in the bloodstream. They're just not taking in more. Now, if now your blood sugar in your body is going up, your A1C is going up, and that high amount of insulin is also causing triglycerides and not triglycerides, LDL to go up, so your cholesterol is going up. If you're in menopause, I'm in menopause. So we can talk about that in a second. It absolutely works if you're in menopause. I have so many women who are over 50. I was just on the phone with a woman in her 70s this morning, and the system has helped her get her sugars and her A1C under control in menopause. Okay, so I'm almost 60, and in 1 month I'm going to be 60 years old. So, and I'm not afraid of it. There was a time when I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what, I don't want to be 60. I'm actually kind of like, let's hit 60 because I feel so much better than I did at 50 that I want to be 60 and healthy. So it absolutely works in menopause, and we'll come back to that. But I want to deal with the issue of these medications right now, because I was just listening to Dr. Bickman and this other physiologist talk about it today in a very, hey, Idaho crypto guy, in a very specific way. So let's talk about what's happening when you take those medications. And this is from Dr. Bickman. This is not me. This is just directly from what I've heard from Dr. Bickman saying this morning. So number one thing that's happening, you start to feel some nausea. Part of the nausea that you're feeling is because food is not moving through your gut properly. So food moves through your stomach pretty quickly still, but it hits your intestines. And in the presence of these medications, that process of your intestines contracting and moving that along starts to slow down. So now food is sitting in your intestines much longer than it should be. Now you're starting to feel full because your intestines haven't emptied and your body's like, oh, don't eat more, I've got to clear this out. So now you have some of this nausea and this feeling of fullness simply because the food you've already eaten hasn't moved through your body. Well, think about that. If you left some raw meat or raw vegetables sitting on the counter untouched for days, it's going to start to go bad, right? It's going to start to get putrid. It's going to start to rot. That's happening inside your intestines. As the food isn't moving through as quickly, it's starting to rot. So what he said is that a lot of patients that he's talked to have these, what they call nasty burps, where when they have this continuing need to burp and it's just really putrid and horrible tasting. And that's because of the food that's rotting in their intestine because it hasn't moved through. Now, on an extreme end, we've seen people end up with gastroparesis where their intestines just are no longer moving and now they have a food blockage. This is all coming from those things that everybody's running to for weight loss when they were developed as a anti-diabetic drug, and instead now they're giving them for weight loss. So people are feeling nauseated because food isn't moving through as quickly. But as the food isn't moving through as quickly and you're having this putrefaction of food in your gut, now you're disturbing your gut microbiome and you're causing inflammation in your gut. That's a whole other topic. That's a whole other things that are going on. But at the end of it all, when people choose to come off of it, they still haven't addressed what the root cause is and why they got there in the first place. And this is one of my biggest issues with them, even in the short term. If people aren't understanding what they're doing with their food and why they got to this place in the first place, the medications may relieve some of the symptoms in the short term, but they're going to leave you going right back to where you were, but now potentially having caused some damage to things like some of the biggest reported ones are pancreas and gallbladder and thyroid that I've heard. So those are some of the warnings from those. And now there's some other things going on. And you guys, please ask questions if you want, if you need clarification on something. And if I don't know, I'll go find the answer for you. Okay. But one of the other things that's happening is now because you have this food sitting in your gut and you're nauseated and you don't feel like eating as much, you actually start to go in a form of starvation where you're just not getting enough nutrients in. So your body is starving itself because you're so nauseated from all this food that's putrefying in your gut that you just don't want to eat. It's not that you don't have hunger, but you're just so nauseous, you just don't feel like eating. So when that happens, you start to lose more muscle than fat. And along the way with these things, you're losing more muscle than fat anyway. So they were saying normally with that kind of diet where people just aren't eating, they're losing about 35 to 40% of their weight is lost from muscle and not just fat. So that's really not a healthy way to do that. And I'm going to get to something else about the muscle tissue in a minute. Now, when you add those in to speed up the weight loss and you're starving yourself to get that weight loss in the presence of these particular things, he's saying that they're starting to see that those people on these, in order to lose that weight, have lost more than 50% of that weight has actually been muscle and lean tissue loss, not just fat loss. So is that what you want? Do you want to have less weight on the scale and still a lot of fat on your body, but you've lost weight, right? And along the way, you've lost a lot of muscle. That's what's happening with these drugs. And they specifically talked about Sharon Osbourne, and she was one of the first people who came off of it and said, hey, this wasn't good. It did all these damaging things to me. And she publicly speaks about how those did not help her and probably actually caused more damage to her. So there's that. Now, what I want you to understand about muscle tissue is this. as we age, it becomes harder and harder to regain muscle. That's why a guy at 60 can do the same workouts as a guy at 18 and still look like he has less muscle on him than the guy who's 18. The guy who's 18 can go in the gym, pump a few weights, do a few things, and he looks jacked and he's good to go because his body is metabolically at its prime and it's putting on muscle really quickly. But as we age, it starts to become harder and harder and harder to put on muscle. So when we think about that, and what they said is it's almost impossible to put on muscle as we age, especially for women. And now we're losing 50% of our muscle. And then we think, okay, when we lose this weight, we're going to get back in the gym. We're going to do all the stuff. We're going to lean up. But now you've lost all of that muscle and you cannot put it back on, even if you're in the gym all the time doing all the weights. And I'm gonna admit to something here. Like, I used to be a power lifter. I was working out 6 days a week, 3 hours a day. Do I think I need to work out 3 hours a day? No. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But I bought into this thing that, hey, my cortisol levels were high. I was having problems with insulin and that maybe I should do gentler workouts. And so along the way, I start losing some muscle mass. Now I'm going to have a hard time getting back to that, right? That heavy, that lean muscle. Now, muscle, understand, is one of the most metabolically receptive tissues on our body. So if we're looking at becoming more insulin sensitive, having a good amount of lean muscle utilizes that energy. There's a flip side to that with these drugs, right? So we want to have a good amount of lean muscle. There's so much to talk about. I do want to say this first. When you're doing those drugs, when you're having that severe hunger depletion and you're starving and you're losing that muscle, now you're also becoming less insulin sensitive because you have less of the tissue that's able to take the insulin in and convert it and utilize it. So not only have you lost muscle, yes, you lost some weight, but you lost some muscle. Now you increased the probability that you're going to have the problem that put you there in the first place. This is all why I'm just strongly not a proponent of those things. If you are, that's fine. Everybody gets to make their choices, but I am not. So I never will be, that in the foreseeable future, that unless something drastic comes out that is there to convince me otherwise. So muscle, I was talking about muscle loss and that was it. So exercise. When we were talking about lifting, one of the things Dr. Bickman was talking about when I was listening to him this morning is this. That when we're doing weight bearing, especially as we age, it doesn't matter the weight that we're bearing. It matters the resistance we get to. So I used to lift like really heavy weights to the point that I could only do 3 reps or 1 rep of that weight before failure, right? Before we're just done. I don't need to lift like that. If I want to, I could, but I don't need to lift like that. But lifting till failure, that incitement of muscle to failure is key in this whole process they're talking about as we age. So what Dr. Bickman said this morning was that it's not so much like you don't have to do the kind of lifting I used to do. And what I'm actually doing now as I'm getting back to the gym is I've lightened up the weight a bit, but I'm doing exactly that. I'm working, like, is it taking me 15 reps to get there? Is it taking me 20 reps to get there? I just want to work until my muscles are like, yeah, I'm done. So work your muscles till failure, whether it's lightweight or whether it's heavyweight. When Dr. Ahmed was on, I brought that up, and because he was talking about cardio being so beneficial, but he said he likes to balance them. I want everybody to remember what Dr. Ahmed said. It's not that he prefers cardio over weights or weights over cardio. He thinks they both have a piece. So if you could do something like lifting weight at a lighter weight and do it as much as you can till failure, now you're getting some cardiometabolic effects from it, and you're getting some muscle building effects from it. So lift till failure at whatever weight you're choosing to lift. Just do it till failure. Don't just pick up a light weight and lift it 3 or 4 times and be like, hey, cool. Or 8 times is the common rep range. Lift until your muscles feel like they can't do it again. take a break and do it again. And that's going to help you with some insulin resistance and being metabolically flexible, according to Dr. Bickman. All right, so muscle loss and these medications is real. Once you lose it, it's going to be super hard to get it back, but it's going to be really easy to get the fat back. So just take that in and think about when we're talking about, when you see all this hype from all these people who are pushing those medications and like how great the weight loss was, how much I lost. I'm happy for them that they lost weight, but do they realize that more than 50% of the weight they lost was likely that lean muscle tissue that helps them be insulin sensitive in the first place? Do they realize that they actually slowed their metabolism down to do that? Do they realize that they didn't address what was causing them to be insulin resistant in the first place? So now they're just gonna probably in a few years rebound, if not sooner, that back. And I've had so many people call me to want to work with me because that's what's happened to them. So let's talk about, there's so much more that we can talk about with that, including the fact that those, and this is from a man who has things in petri dishes to look and see how they affect them, including those medications on fat cells. What they've seen is that those medications do have the ability to increase the amount of fat cells on your body. So if you're one of those people where the fat cells increase when you're on these medications, you come off the medication, you finally somehow get your gut moving again, you maybe get your gut microbiome working again, you get all of that happening. Now you still have a muscle loss, but you have more fat cells than when you began. So instead of just depleting the fat cells that you had and hoping not to regrow those, you're actually duplicating fat cells on your body with those medications. That's one of the things they can do in people. Does it happen to everyone? No. But is it a real thing? According to Dr. Bickman, who looks at this through the lens of a petri dish where he's watching this happen, yes, it does happen. Okay. So the more natural solution, let's talk about that really quick. You saw me drink, maybe if you were here earlier, you saw me drink a tea earlier, and welcome in everybody who's been joining. And if you have questions about where I'm at or what I'm talking, because maybe you missed part of the live, I'm more than happy to go back over and explain things to you. So let's do that. All right. So I'm having this one was hot. I always have it hot in the morning. And then this one is iced because I'm just a thirsty girl this morning. So I can have my tea hot or cold. And we're going to go over those. I did a video yesterday on chlorogenic acids. Dr. Ahmed, who was on earlier, is going to give me some more information on chlorogenic acids and the benefits of them and antioxidants. He wants to come on and talk about the benefits of antioxidants and what they really are. And I look forward to having him on for that. But what I'm doing is I'm putting back in my body what's been stripped out so that my body can function normally. Am I on a starvation diet? No. Do I do fasting? Yes. So let's talk about that really quick before I get into this solution a little bit further. There's a misnomer out there that because we're fasting, we're in that starvation place and that we're having this calorie deficit, and that's where the weight loss is coming from. Now, Dr. Bickman hasn't done a study on it yet, but I've heard him talk about the fact that he feels like even in an intermittent fasting state, he feels like, again, no study behind it, that people could still take in the same amount of calories in their eating window when they're doing fasting and still have better metabolic effect than if they were reducing calories and eating a longer term, or even having the same amount of calories in a longer term, because of the fasting window. And if you guys want to know why intermittent fasting works so well for insulin resistance, I'll go over that timeline. Just put a 1 in the chat if you want to know why that's happening and what's happening with you. But understand that for me, intermittent fasting isn't about calorie restriction. It's not about calorie reduction. It's simply about allowing my metabolism to get off of needing insulin for energy and allowing my body to switch to using glucagon, which spurns fat burning and the reduction of some other inflammatory cells that need to go away. So it's absolutely not about calorie restriction, but like many people, I have that tendency to go to that, right? When I am fasting and I'm like paying attention to my weight, it's really easy for me to fall back into that calories in, calories out mindset and be like, ooh, if I just restrict what I eat a little bit more today, it's going to get better. And now, knowing everything I know, and having spoken with people like Dr. Bickman, I have to say, no, stop that. What you want to do today is up your intake of food, up your intake of nutrients. So I'm not talking about I want to go in the other room and I want to sit down and eat ice cream and donuts all day. I'm going to go in. Somebody asked me this morning, what's my breakfast going to be? My breakfast this morning is going to be my break fast, when I do have it at about 11, is going to be about 3 eggs, some no nitrate sausages, and some kind of healthy fat. I've been adding sauerkraut in there because I want good gut health, but it's a big meal. When I look at that plate, honestly, I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to eat all of this? But in that trying to get in enough nutrients, trying to get in about 150 grams of protein in a day, trying to get in enough fiber in a day, trying to get in enough fats in a day, I have to make those meals dense. So these are not, ooh, I'm just going to have, a little tiny McDonald's hamburger that has very little protein in it and is very highly processed and a lot of bread and carbohydrates. I'm really focusing on fiber, protein, and fats. Now, because I'm the spreadsheet queen, or that's what my friends call me, I took and said, okay, on a normal week of what I used to eat, this is what my caloric intake looked like. This is what my nutrient intake looked like. Now I'm doing this fasting and intermittent fasting. And these are the meals I'm having on the days I'm eating and during the times I'm eating. My nutrient count, because I'm more focused on nutrients now and not just calories, my nutrient count has almost doubled, but my calorie count has stayed about the same, and yet I'm still starting to pull off inches and weight. So is it really about calorie counting? And is fasting really about starvation and reduction of calories? No, it's not. It's all about the hormones and getting the hormones under control, like insulin, and allowing the other hormone to come out called glucagon. All of that's confusing. Let's look at that. Insulin is what they call anabolic. It wants things to grow. Okay. So it's taking energy out to the cells of the body to give them energy. So insulin's really nurturing. It's like, hey, I have this package for you. You really need it. I really want to get this to you. That's insulin. And glucagon is like, hey, there's all this excess stuff out here. I really want to take it away. So glucagon is catabolic. It wants to burn things up. Well, if we were in a catabolic state all the time, we just wouldn't survive. So our body prioritizes insulin over glucagon. So as long as insulin is out in your body, glucagon is not present and you're not burning fat for fuel. So insulin is making you hold on to fat. It's putting you in a state where you can't burn fat. It's putting you in a state where it's encouraging fat storage, because in insulin's little world, it's like, if I can get all this energy here, this person's going to survive longer. And that may be true, but we've way overdone it in today's society. Okay. So let's step back. Fasting or intermittent fasting is not about calorie restriction. If we're doing it right, it's about allowing that metabolic flexibility to happen where insulin can go to sleep, glucagon can do its job, but during my eating window, I'm still having super nutrient dense food. And when I'm talking nutrients, I'm talking about the macros of protein and fats, and making sure I'm getting in fibers for my gut health so that my gut microbiome is healthy, so that all of that inflammation isn't leaking out, and a number of other things. Okay. So what we need to understand, why is fiber in there? There's a couple of reasons. When we have fiber attached to our foods, it slows down the delivery of sugar into our system. So now we're not getting this super hard freight train punch of sugar into our system. It's like a time release of that sugar into the system. So now the body says, hey, insulin, I don't need you as much now. So we're going to slow down that need for you so you can come down a bit. That's what fiber is doing for you. It's regulating the insulin by regulating the sugars. So Debbie, and everybody write this down, and it's a fair question because it gets so confusing. Um, how much protein should I be getting in a day? So my goal body weight is about 165, 170 pounds. Now that may seem heavy for some people, but I'm a Native American stock. I have denser bones, thicker bones. I have more muscle mass. I'm built a little different. I'm built different. Okay. So for me, about 170 pounds looks really lean on me. And my bones start to stick out anywhere below that. When I was about 155 pounds earlier in life, bones were sticking out everywhere. Not a good look. So for me, it's about 165, 170 grams. That means that goal that I want to be at, that where I should be healthy, that's where I want to focus on. So I want to get in about 165 to 170 grams of protein in a day. Now, if you're getting in enough protein, you're not hungry. The cravings for the sugars go away. You're actually able to produce more hormones because hormones are protein, and you're feeding your body what it needs to build your hormones properly, right? You're giving your body the protein it needs for your muscles. You're giving your body all of this good nutrient. Proteins spike your insulin half as much as carbohydrates do. So I'm aiming to get in, if I can get in 150, I'll feel good. Recently, I've only been getting in 80 to 100. So I had to sit down and have a talk with myself. Like, Misha, you're not losing weight. You're having some of these other things going on. Great. All of these things have gotten better, but what can you do better? What can I do better as I age? And I realized fiber and protein are two of the things I wasn't really giving enough credence to. So now I'm on a mission to get in about 150 to 170 grams of protein a day when I'm eating. Okay. Now, do I take additional vitamins or supplements? Yes, I do. Remember, I had heart problems. I'm also older, so I add fish oils in. We have a great omega-3 that I take every day. DHEA is one that I've been low on. So I do take DHEA. Sorry. And then, so DHEA, I do take some vitamin C because it's important. And I do our bone fortify, which is calcium, magnesium, D3, and K2 in a really metabolically available, bioavailable mix. So it takes, those all play off of each other. If you're just doing D3, you're not getting the absorption in your body you need. If you're just taking magnesium without all the calcium and stuff, you're not getting the absorption. So I do the bone fortify to make sure I'm getting everything I need in that. So that's it. And now I've upped my fiber intake. So some days that might be an extra one of my meal packets. There's another fiber we do that I am doing as well. I also, because new year 24, I'm like, I'm done being sick. Last year, what I didn't talk about a lot, I talked about was when I had my gallbladder removed, about a year after my gallbladder got removed, I got really sick. All year last year, I was really sick. Gastritis problems, all of these other things. I was starting to have problems with weight again. I was starting to have a number of other issues that led from or stemmed from that gallbladder removal. So I've spent a year researching and trying to figure out what am I going to do to help manage that. So I do some bile salts and some digestive enzymes because remember, no gallbladder now. That's about it. So thanks for that question, Debbie. Was there any other questions? Okay, so again, could I turn the volume higher? It is higher here. I don't know why it's not that high, Mariska. And you guys also, I want to make you aware of, I spent a lot of time yesterday trying to find a way to take these lives and download them and then replay them. So even if you can't stay for this whole live, but you want to hear the information, it's there. I'm also going to be working on taking some of the points from these lives and making them into shorter videos so that this information is out there for you guys. I appreciate your input and your interaction on these lives and the fact that you want to learn all this stuff. That's huge, you guys. We can take our health back. We can start to feel better even as we age. We just got to know how to do that. So, all right, I think that was it. Debbie, if you have more questions, let me know. So, all right, now all of that to be said, this is what I'm doing, you guys. I'm actually just doing that tea that I was talking about in the morning. The chlorogenic acid video that I did last night is why I drink that tea. It's why I say pears. It's why all of that. Those chlorogenic acids are so beneficial to us. Plus, the one thing I didn't say in that video last night was that it's one of the only components that can cross the blood-brain barrier and actually get this goodness into the brain, because our body's so protective of our brain. Not everything can cross that. So it's one of the things that can actually start to help your mental health by allowing these nutrients into your brain. Okay, so we're getting there, Anita. She asked, what tea is it? So then I have that tea every morning, and then I have a pre-meal drink before I eat anything. Now, because I'm really focusing on nutrients, and I'm probably different from just about everybody else on the platform right now, but I'm doing 3 meals in my 8-hour eating window. So I'm still doing a 16-8 fast. I have an 8-hour eating window. And when I sat down and mapped out what my nutrients look like, I was like, oh, okay, so I'm having 3 meals. I'm having one at, like, say, so today it's at 11. My next one will be about 4 hours later at 3, and my next one will be at 7. And each one of those meals, I'm focusing on about 50 grams of protein in that meal. I'm focusing on getting in at least 10 grams of fiber in each one of those meals, and I'm focusing on getting in some healthy fats. By the time I do that, I really have no room left for the junky carbs that were causing the problem in the first place. By the time I get to my second meal 4 hours later, I'm not even hungry. It's like I have to have a conscious effort to eat. So because of that, I am utilizing some shakes where I'm getting in about 40 to 50 grams of protein and some good fats in between, just because it's really daunting for me to sit down and look at those big plates of food. However, I was telling the person that I was talking with this morning, that I actually spend less on my food when I do this. I'm eating high amounts of protein, high amounts of fat, and high amounts of fiber, but I'm spending less on my food. It's not as expensive to eat this way as we've convinced ourselves it is. It actually can save you money. Um, it's very simple for me. All right, so a pre-meal drink in the morning and a morning drink and a pre-meal drink that I have before I eat anything. Part of it is there's a high amount of fiber in this. There's really like 5 grams of fiber in these. So this is the system. Tea in the morning, fiber before I eat. This is for the average person. This is what you're going to do. That's the system, and you can just go to my profile link and find it. I'll drop the profile link over here, or the link in Facebook. So the top thing on there says the system I use, and that's where you're going to go to get it. It costs you about $5 a day. Let's talk about the benefits of each one of those and why it's worked to reverse my diabetes, help me lose weight, and reverse all of the things up on this list that I was suffering from. It's simple. The tea, if you watch the chlorogenic acids video from last night, that's going to explain a lot about the tea, but it has antioxidant, it has anti-cancer properties, it's metabolically healthy, it's helping you with sugar regulation in your system, it's helping you with mood, and when you feel better, you want to eat less. When you're depressed, you tend to want to eat more, and you tend to gravitate towards carbs. So feeling mentally capable helps you have less of those junky cravings that are causing the problem. The tea does all of that. It's helping me with fat burning during a fasted state. This does not break my fasting because it's not spiking my insulin. It's actually helping me put out more ketones, which supports the glucagon and fat burning. So I have this tea in the morning. Now the pre-meal drink is 7 different types of soluble and insoluble fiber. So they're slowing down the delivery of sugar into your system. So when you do eat, what's converting to sugar doesn't hit your bloodstream right away. It takes it to like a time release. 1 packet of this can reduce your blood sugars by a blood sugar spike by 20%. Now, if you're having a higher carbohydrate meal, you can have 2 of them because it's food. So that too, so 20% of the blood glucose spike is reduced, 13% of an insulin spike is reduced, backed by science. 2 packets reduce the blood glucose by 28% and the blood insulin by 27%. Now, besides that, so the guarantee with this, it has a 90-day money-back guarantee. So you get, it's now a dual guarantee. Your A1C, your blood glucose, and your triglycerides will, or not triglycerides, your cholesterol panel will go down. Yes, your triglycerides, sorry. or you get your money back if you're doing it regularly, consistently. Now, if you're just not happy with it after 90 days because you don't feel better, you don't feel like your health is coming back, then you get your money back anyway. So do it for 90 days and help yourself. Why 90 days? Because it's food that we're just replacing what's been stripped out of your diet. We're giving you back the nutrients that you've been missing so that your body can function properly. It's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to drink the tea a day or the fiber for a week and start to have these huge changes that you want in your life. For me, I did notice energy the first day went up. Yeah, I'll do that. Anita asked, could I give the ratio of weight to protein to calculate how much we need? So I must have skipped over that because I got off talking. But that's what the system is doing. Do it for 90 days or don't do it at all. Okay, you guys, when you dive into this, I want you to say, I'm committing to myself for 90 days. I'm going to do this. I'm going to see the change. I'm going to text Misha when I have problems because you're going to get my number. You're going to get access to me. Text me, use me. I'm here for free when you do the system, when you use my link. Okay, so the ratio of weight to protein is this. Sorry, I got off track and missed it. So for every pound of body weight that's your desired weight, you want a gram of protein. That's where I got off topic. So if I want to be 165 to 170 pounds lean, then I need to get in 165 to 170 grams of protein every day. And most people that I'm working with, the shocking thing is when I have them recant to me what they ate in a day and we look at it, they're getting in 30 to 40 grams of protein in an entire day. So you cannot lose weight if you don't have proper protein. And I'm talking about fat. You cannot lose fat without proper protein, not in the way you want because your body thinks you're starving. So it's holding on to that fat because you're not giving your body the nutrients it needs to have the components that it needs to be healthy. So it wants to preserve your muscle because that's what moves you around. But the interesting thing is when you do long fasting, when you do calorie restriction, your body kind of then goes into a mode where it says, hey, one of the tissues that's using up the most energy and we're not getting in enough is that muscle over there. So if I want to survive and you're reducing the calories, you're reducing the energy I can use, and it starts to go into starvation mode, what your body is really saying is, we got to start shutting down cells that are using too much energy. And guess what? That's going to be muscle loss. Calorie restriction slows down your metabolism and causes muscle loss. I don't count calories. I focus on my nutrients. And thank you, Brenda, for sharing the live. Yeah, I think this is for those of you who have people who are struggling, who have friends, family, who might need to hear this, please share it out with them so that they can start to understand this. No, Tracy, the 90-day guarantee stems from we have I didn't lose weight and some of those things for 6 weeks. By 90 days, I had lost about 25 pounds, but before that, I didn't lose any weight. By 90 days, and the other thing with 90 days, understand this. That's a very, I'm going to say damaged view. So I'm sorry for whatever happened in your life that gives you that view. But look, when we look at A1C, your doctor wants to measure that every 90 days. So if we take 90 days and we say this is what your A1C is when you start, it's a real food product. It's going to take some time to change. And we want you to go back in 90 days and get that A1C again. That's when your doctor's going to recommend it. So we're going to guarantee you in that 90 days between those readings from your doctor that they're going to go down. 90 days. Pretty simple. Okay. So Anita, you were told to divide by 2.2, so that's too low then because I'm 125 pounds and want to be 120. That's by kilograms, Anita. So it gets confusing, right? Because most of the rest of the world works on kilograms, and kilograms is about 2.2046 times pounds. So it gets confusing because now you're looking at divide by 2.2 because they're going off of kilograms. Okay, so I'm talking about pounds. If you're 125, yes, you want to be getting in about 120 to 125 grams of protein in a day. So if you were to convert your weight into kilograms, you'd have to multiply that up by 2.2046. And then that's where they're talking about divided by 2.2, because it's just going to bring you back down to the pounds part, where it's a gram per pound. I hope that makes sense, why there was that confusion with what you're being told. And that's fair to have that confusion, because they don't explain all of this, and we're just getting all of this information and trying to make it work, right? Okay. Any other questions? You guys, I know I got on a little late this morning. I do want to talk about this. So I'm doing a cleanse. Somebody asked about what I'm doing. Now, am I doing the cleanse because I want my insulin resistance, and it's very personal for me. So I also heard my favorite person to talk about on the other camp. She was talking last night in one of her lives about, oh, stop doing all the cleanses because you're not going to poop your fat out. I'm not doing a cleanse because I want to get the fat down. I'm doing a cleanse because I want to help my liver, because I want to help regrow the microbiome in my gut, because I want all of those, I want toxins that are causing problems with thyroid, with other things to get out of my body. Cleansing is not about pooping out fat. Wow, what a crazy statement that was to hear this morning. So I am doing a cleanse. Now, part of our cleanse, I'm not just like, okay, I'm drinking some slim tea. I'm doing this thing called the Unicity Cleanse. It comes from the same company, but I have 2 tablets for the first 10 days of this thing called Paraway Plus. That starts to help remove toxins and parasites from within the intestinal system so that they can be released. Now that they're released, we don't want them to reattach. So within about an hour, I have a high fiber drink called Live Fiber that has like 27 different types of fiber in it that's going to help sweep all of that toxin out of my system. And then before I go to bed, I'm going to have an aloe tablet, which is just a gentle laxative, because we want to continue to move that stuff out of the system. I think that's important. So what I was talking to this dear 70-something-year-old woman was that she was starting to have some problems with her sugars. Now, if you're having surgeries, if she just had cortisol shots, she had some other things, her sugars were around 89, and now they're spiking up to 220 in the morning. Does it mean the system's not working for her? No, it means she had some other things going on. That cortisol can actually make your blood sugar spike. She also mentioned that she's having to take Miralax. Maybe the 2 packets of Balance are not enough because she's had 70 years of negative gut microbiome. So we were talking about doing the cleanse to kind of reset her body and get that gut microbiome back to working, functioning in a way that's healthy for her body. If you want to know more about the cleanse, let me know. If you want to know more about why I do a cleanse, we'll talk about that, but it's absolutely not about pooping fat out. Okay? All right, guys, I do have to hop on another call. Okay. I did not see your question up further up, Cher. Ask me that question again. I will answer it before I hop off if you're still here. Oh, best way to get off diabetic drugs and Ozempic, type 2 diabetic, I get low readings, missing meals. So what I'm talking about again, if you missed it, and look, guys, as I get off, I want to say this. If you go to my link here on TikTok, and if you follow the link that I've already posted in the chat over on Facebook, there's a place in there that says contact me on WhatsApp. Please contact me and we can have this conversation, you and I, about what it works for you and what we can do. I am not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm a woman who overcame all this stuff and just chooses to listen to the doctors that I feel like are really in the know and on the forefront of metabolic sciences. So the system that I'm doing is what a lot of people are doing to get off of the Ozempic. As type 2 diabetics, you don't need to do the aggressive fasting that I'm doing, but a 16-8 fast is necessary, and I'm more than happy to hop on the phone and talk with you about that and why you're getting low readings, because most people, when they think intermittent fasting, are thinking calorie restriction. So now they're going to OMAD and they're going to like, I'm going to just take out all of my food. No, the intermittent fasting is allowing the insulin to come down and the component hormone glucagon to come up. It's not about nutrient or calorie restriction. So during the 8 hours I eat, I'm very focused on getting in protein, fats, and fiber so that my body has what it needs. And then you won't see those readings happening like that. But please reach out to me. Just go to my profile link. You guys, all of the information is in there. If you tap on my picture above the live or on any video, two things. There's a link right below the red lights in my video or in my profile, but there's also the first pinned video tells you how to get to the system that I'm using. But that link will take you to a place where you can text me and get a hold of me. And yes, I do answer. And I would love to talk to you about how we can help you get off of something like Ozempic so that you can actually find better health. And I'm sorry I missed your question earlier. Okay, guys, I'm going to run. I've got a phone call to make and some people to connect with. And I will be back on Monday. In the meantime, yes, I do work from time to time on the weekends. But as I'm tapping into, and I'm going to encourage everyone else, learn to put the social media and the electronics and all the stuff away this weekend and really give the people in your life that make up your life, your time and your love and everything this weekend so that they know they're a priority and that you can reconnect with your priorities in life and start to get this insulin down, because that high cortisol level from us being swiping and being on social media and blue screens on our face all the time is causing part of this. I'll talk to you guys Monday. Thanks for hanging out with me. Love you all. Appreciate you all. And yeah, please use my number if you have questions. I will answer everything I can. Have a great day, guys. You're so welcome, Anita.